I've owned a lot of guns, and I think that over enough years, I've probably learned that there are some guns that I should never have bought, and some guns that I probably should get back after I've sold them. Over the years, I think that there are several guns that I've probably owned more than once. And to be honest, there are probably several guns that I will probably own again. And so I'd like to talk about a list of several guns that I have bought, sold, bought again, sold again, and maybe will continue to buy again if I ever need to fill a gap in my particular collection for whatever need. So the first gun that I want to talk about is the Taurus TX22. This is an unbelievable gun, and it has so much going for it. It is one of the only 15-round 22 semi-automatic pistols that is very, very reliable and consistent. The gun is generally accurate. It has adjustable sights. There are big versions, small versions. There are some versions that are able to be suppressed, some that actually have lightweight slides and optics ready. I find the trigger to be usable, and it's easy to clean, and there's not a whole lot to it. Magazines are kind of hard to load, to be honest, but they're not harder than a lot of other 22 magazines that I've loaded. Number two, in this particular case, I'm going to say the Beretta Model 92. I've had a couple of these over the years, including the M9 and the regular 92. Seeing the A1 model is absolutely awesome. This is a gun that has never failed me, except for I had a dud that I think had a barrel problem. But that being said, it's easy to use. They're remarkably reliable. They're one of the most battle-tested pistols in the history of firearms. There's amazing upgrades that can be done through companies like Wilson Combat or Langdon. I've bought one. I've sold it. I bought another one. Every so often, I get an itch to have another Beretta in my collection, and then I might get bored with it. But the deal is that if you have one in your collection, there's no reason to get rid of it. But if you decide that you're going to get rid of it, it's one of those ones that can easily climb back into your collection. It's big, it's heavy, it's generally accurate. It has a super long barrel. So if you want to really get into the ballistic minutia, you're probably going to get the most performance out of a bullet. The issue with that gun, though, is that it is very, very big, and you cannot conceal carry it. So you'll probably want to look at something like a hip holster, and it will be a large open carry gun. The next gun, number three, that I want to look at is the CZ P10. Owned a couple of these over the years. I started with a P10F, which was the colossally big version. I believe it has a 19 capacity, 19 plus 1. I've shot the CZ P10C, which I believe is maybe one of the best concealed carry guns of all time, and they can be had for around $400, some even less. I believe that occasionally you can find those for around $320 if you get them on sale. If I ever needed to just pick up one single gun right off the floor, and I didn't have more than about $400, I would certainly look at having one of those. Tied in third place will be the Canik TP9SF. I think that one of the things that we're going to look at as well is that I've had one of those, I've sold it, they're easy to pick up, but for the price range, TP9 and the Meta are probably close enough. I would own one of those again if I needed to. So a couple of guns under $400 that are going to give you unbelievable performance, good accuracy, generally tunable to some degree, and a lot of them will be optics ready, which will be really, really nice. A staple that most gun owners will ever really want to consider, your Glock 19. I think that I've had two of them, bought and sold them, modded them, had some fun with them. I honestly believe that generally we will be able to do a whole lot with that Glock 19. It can be easily carried. A lot of agencies have given their officers Glock 19s instead of 17s because they're a little bit smaller. I do want to include variations of this gun, including the Glock 17, which has the same operating system, same extractor, the striker, all of that. It's just a little bit different dimensionally. So in that, I would include the Glock 17 as well as the Glock 19X or the Glock 45, which have some different dimensions as well, but it is all the same engine. It's the same heart, different capacities and different barrel lengths. So I would say that I will probably own more in the future. It may be the most reliable gun ever made. And I heard a YouTuber once say, if I had to go to the store, pick up a gun and load it with a magazine full of ammo and put it in my holster, Glock might be the only one that I would ever choose to trust with my life without necessarily having to test fire it. They'll even send you the piece of brass that they used to send it. The next one is in the Glock family as well. That would be the Glock 20. Glock 20, I've owned two of these and sold them over the years. They make excellent conversions for other caliber because it's Glock's largest frame, and the 20 and the 21 share a lot of the same parts. But I would say that the Glock 20 is a fabulous gun that I will probably own again because the 10 millimeter is so unbelievably versatile. There's lots of barrels you can get for it. It's good for hunting. If you can get a model that is an MOS, that's awesome because you can use a red dot and you can literally hunt hog and deer, and depending on where you live. 15 rounds of 357 Magnum power that can be carried around on a gun that is, it's a large gun, but generally speaking, it is more than powerful enough for any self-defense scenario. I had a Storm Lake barrel for a couple of mine that I carried 357 SIG in with the standard Glock 20 magazine. And what I did in that case was I had some pretty warm 357 SIG defense loads that I would carry that had gigantic fireballs. But I'll probably own another one because every so often I get the bug for 10 millimeter and I absolutely love it. The next one that I will say is the Smith & Wesson 86. And I'm saying 86 because I'm including both the 586 and the 686. What that means is that the 686 is a stainless version and the 586 is a blued version. This is a 357 Magnum, double action, single action, maybe one of the best ever made. It is a full underlug model that generally can be had anywhere between 3 and 8 inch barrels. The 357 Magnum really prefers to be in a 4-inch or longer barrel, but the operation of this gun is really slick and smooth, and one of the nice reasons to have one is that you can get most of your money back out of them. Most people will only lose a couple $100 of value going from a new one to selling it. So if you decide you'd like to keep some money in a gun savings account, Smith & Wesson 586 or 686 is a great way to do that. And it's just an unbelievably good gun. There is an unlimited amount of aftermarket things that you can do to these guns, and they're accurate and they're reliable. It's one of the few things that Smith & Wesson has made that has really stood the test of time in the last 30 years. Now that gun does go back beyond 30 years, but I'd say they have had some shaky quality on some of their stuff since then, especially with the introduction of MIM parts. So I'm always looking for ones that are pre-MIM, like your -1, -3, -4s, because those are really good. If you can get an old Spike Hammer one, those are even better because those are hand fit with some of Smith & Wesson's absolute best parts. Next one that I will say is one of my favorite carry guns of all time, the HK VP9. I've had 2 of these and I plan to have many more over the years. As far as customizations and the ability of your shooter to choose if you want it to favor left-handed, right-handed, big hand, small hand, that gun is unbelievable. Now, one of the issues is that it's a little picky with ammo. So if you shoot steel or aluminum case, the chambers seem to be a little bit tighter in both of the models that I owned. However, I believe that gun didn't really need anything as the trigger was really good. And if you're shooting brass ammo, I didn't have any issues. It had night sights from the factory, an exceptional grip and balance. It has some ergonomics on the slide that make it easy to handle. And frankly, it's one of the most perfect striker fire guns ever made. I really can't think of a whole lot of things that gun needs other than just strapping an accessory to it, like a TLR7 perhaps. So I will probably have another one if I decide at some point to get the HK bug again. One of the downsides is that they're expensive and magazines are like $50, but it's a gun that I've never regretted having. If you're also wanting to look at its companion or its brother gun, the P30, which is a double action, single action version, that is a great gun too. I haven't owned one of those, but generally speaking, because it's the same engine as that, the magazine, the action are very similar. And this one will just have a hammer and a decocker system. The next one that I will say I would absolutely buy again is the Taurus GX4 Carry. It is a remarkably soft shooting and reliable gun. If you are going to get one, get the Toro, T-O-R-O, optics ready version. You're going to get the most money out of that. There is finally some aftermarket for some Taurus guns on the GX4 models. There's a company called Lakeline that has some parts and a couple other manufacturers here and there that can help slick up some of the trigger parts as well as the slide. The gun performed unbelievably and it was very well balanced. I would put it up against any Hellcat or any SIG 365 any day, and I believe that it will shoot with them, and you can get one for under $350. So I would gladly buy one of those and carry it. Generally, that's one that I would want to test out and make sure that I had a good one, but that's the nature of owning a Taurus. Luckily, the one that I had was flawless and I never had any issues with it. I would buy it again. The next one and the last one that I'll put on my main list is the SIG P226 Legion, which I actually have here on my desk. This gun is one that I have actually 2 copies of right now, one for me and one for my wife. I keep one in my tactical vest that I actually have set up as a go and get dirty kit. That is my actual carry for saving and preserving my life or whatever. Because I trust that gun the most, it has an unbelievable double action. It has very bright sights on it. It's got lots of coatings on it that make it resistant to things like salt corrosion and other issues, other things that would come up. My wife finds that gun to be very easy to use, and she seems to be accurate with it, which if you watch another one of my videos where I compare the what is it, a TP9 Taurus or TS9 to a SIG 226 Legion. It was one of those things where the gun feels natural to shoot. I would easily buy one of these again. I consider it to be maybe the best duty grade 9mm of all time. Truly, and I do mean that. Maybe I would put that up to maybe the Glock 19, where both of these guns are absolutely worthy to take into war and never look back. Now, there are other guns that are excellent that I wouldn't have a problem doing that with, but that's one that I would definitely carry into war and have prepared to do so. Here are some honorable mentions that these are guns that I have owned that I would buy similar versions of or alternative versions of. I have owned the SIG 320. I would own multiple versions of that. I have the M18. I would also buy the M17. There are several versions of the 320 that I would love to have, including the AXG Legion or the Spectre Comp. I believe that the SIG 320 may be one of the best handgun lines that you can possibly get these days, and they're like Legos, and they're infinitely customizable. The next one, it would be the TZOS 1911 models. Now, there are different versions, but one of the things that I have learned is that their slide, their frame, and their barrel steel is awesome. If you find a good one and you find one that's fit well, you will be able to modify that and do just about anything with it. I have one that I call the T-Sauce 9mm full-size pistol that has been unbelievable. And it's allowed me a lot of opportunities to learn 9mm gunsmithing. Would absolutely buy one again. 100 times out of 100. They've been so good for the value. Another one would be the Ruger cowboy guns. The Ruger Vaquero, the Ruger Blackhawk, or the Super Blackhawk. One of the things that I've learned with those that makes me so happy is that these guns are built like tanks. And so I have a couple in 357 Magnum. I would gladly own them in 41 Magnum, 44 Magnum. So all of these guns, I would get them with a Beasley grip or with the plow handle grip. I would like to have a whole collection. The Vaqueros are good for your nostalgia shooting. The Blackhawks are great for accuracy shooting and super heavy duty hunting loads. I would easily have one of those. One of my dreams would be probably to get a Beasley Blackhawk Hunter and put a scope on it and shoot 44 Magnum and go after some game with that. Another one is going to be the Ruger Security 6/GP100. I would definitely own one of these again if I ever needed to. As far as a well-balanced, good shooting, a very well-built 357 Magnum gun, I think they're awesome. There are some versions that will shoot 9mm as well, and then I think there are some versions that might shoot alternative calibers. So something to look at when you have those is that they're unbelievably good. And if you need something like a revolver, you don't have a whole lot of availability, but you want something that you can absolutely trust with your life, a GP100 or a Security 6, I believe, is the way to go if you don't want to move up into the Colts and the Smith & Wesson realm. If you go much cheaper, you could be looking at guns that could have issues or guns that may not feel good. The GP100 is locked in exactly where it needs to be. The last one is the Ruger Red Hawk. I have considered getting that gun in a couple of different variations, including the 8-shot 357 Magnum. I have a couple that I've had in 44 Magnum. I also wouldn't mind seeing one of those in one of the big nasty calibers like 480 Ruger or 454 Casull or something like that. I believe there might even be one in 45 Colt. I could be wrong on that, and if I am, somebody please let me know. But I just know that the Red Hawk, as their biggest double action gun, is one that has a whole lot of variations. They're going up to the Super Red Hawk that can be used for big Magnum monster loads and things. But that is my short list of guns that I have owned, that I would own again, with a little extra appendix of guns that I do own, but I would like to add additional variations of them. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope that if you're interested in learning any more about these guns, ask any questions that you have. I'd love to be a resource for anybody. I hope everyone's doing well. God bless you all.